Hi there, I'm Rose Jordan with Visit Mineral Wells, and I'm here with Carol Elder. And she and her husband are owners of, hold on, you might need a pencil, the Famous Water Mineral Water Company, the Crazy Water Bottling Company, the Crazy Coffee and Water Bar, and the Crazy Water Bathhouse and Spa.
Yes.
Okay.
We are all things crazy.
Okay. All things very yes. So Carol's going to be showing us around both the Famous Water and here at the coffee bar. But first, I'm going to have her share with us the story about Crazy Water, where the name came from, and a little bit about the science of our water and what makes our water so unique and so sought after. So follow us, and we're going to take you on a little tour. So Carol, let's start with the crazy story. People come into town, they may actually wonder whether they're in Mineral Wells, Texas or Crazy, Texas, because crazy's everywhere. Where in the world did the crazy come from?
So crazy dates back to the 1800s. And in about 1881, there was a lady who came here who was a little bit cuckoo. And so she, as the legend goes, would sit by this certain well every day and would drink from the well and get a glass or two a day from this well. And the people noticed after a short period of time that she was no longer crazy. And so the well became known as the Crazy Woman's Well, and then the Crazy Well, and then what it is now, Crazy Water. So it just kind of is a name that evolved from like the 1881 up to modern day.
And so that well is actually on this property, the Crazy Water Hotel, on the northwest corner in the sidewalk. Right now it's not much to see, but we're hoping to change that. So, all right, talk to us about the water here. It's naturally occurring mineral water. You're not infusing water in. What makes our water so different? Why is it so full of minerals as opposed to city water?
So where Mineral Wells is located is we're kind of in a small valley. And so if you notice when you go east of here to Dallas or west to like Abilene, it's very flat. But this little valley we're here, it's called the Palo Pinto Mountains. And so you have like a minor fault line here as well. And so during millions of years ago, this was the edge of ancient oceans. And so that's where you get the fossil park.
Right.
That's in Mineral Wells. But so when the waters would come in and recede, it would leave some of the water here to evaporate. And so over the millions of years, it would then just leave layers of sediment. And so then you would have, the West Texas sandstorms that would come and leave sediment as well. And so because we're in the Palo Pinto Mountains and it's a minor fault line, you have fissures in the rock. And so when it rains, the rain is actually doesn't sit on the surface of a flat rock. It actually goes through the fissures and collects the minerals from all the different layers that the sands and the oceans brought into it. So that's what makes it so unique. So you can only get this type of mineral waters in this little valley here. And
so it's been over 100 years now, and we're not running out of water. How is it that it just keeps continuing to the same? It's just every time it rains, it's going back.
Yeah, so every time it rains, it rejuvenates the wells. And so, as long as we have rain, we have water.
Because we're a little short of this year. All right. So you kind of started out, you and Scott, a little over 20 years ago, with the Famous Water Pavilion. So tell us kind of the background between the pavilion there, and then what people can see, what they can get when they go to the Famous Water, because it's a little bit different than here at the coffee and water bar.
So Famous, back in the day, were two competing companies, and both nationally distributed. The original Crazy Water Company went out of business in the 1940s. This is the original Crazy Water Hotel that was opened up in 1927. So when the original Crazy Water Company went out of business in the 1940s, in the 1970s, Famous picked up those trademarks. And so for the 1970s until the early 2000s, you'd actually see two logos on the front of the bottle, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really into distribution. And so it didn't, we could tell that story when people would come into the pavilion of why there were two logos, because both of them had a very strong part in our town's history. So they both deserve to be preserved and used.
Yeah.
But until we started taking the water back out to distribution, it had 2 logos on the bottle. And then when we started putting the water back into grocery stores, we obviously had to pick one logo to go with, because you can't have 2 logos on a bottle, because that's way too crazy. So.
All right. And so it's the Famous Water Pavilion, because historically, remind me, back in the late 1800s, early 1920s, there were pavilions all over town, right? And
Yes.
each one had
and
their
so
specialty.
This was the Crazy Water Pavilion. And so here, it was kind of a very social place here at the hotel. And this is where they came with the numbering system, Crazy Water 1 through 4. This is a replica of the original fountain. So back in the day, when you would come here, you'd go see a doctor, and the doctor would prescribe you water depending on your ailment. So he would drink 1 glass of 3 and 2 glasses of 4 a day, depending on what you had. And so you come up, you belly up to the bar, and they would have 4 fountains like this, and you would just sit here and drink your water. They had a shuffleboard, brackets on the floor. They play shuffleboard. This is where the game of 42 was originated from, and so this was the Crazy Water Pavilion. Okay. And so when the hotel was renovated, it was, for us as a company, it was amazing to be able to bring Crazy Water back behind its original bar. Yeah. And so here we make everything out of Crazy Water. And so all the coffees, all the teas, all the sodas are made with the Crazy Water. And then to keep everything on brand and healthier, we actually make most of our syrups and our alternative milks. Like, we will sprout and make our own almond milk here. Okay. And then most of our syrups are made with the Crazy Water base too. Okay. So we can make sure there's no preservatives, and everything is made out of it comes as close to the earth as we possibly can. Right. And so we use like real turmeric and real ginger and real black pepper in our turmeric ginger, that kind of thing. Okay.
And over at the Famous, so here it was shuffleboard. What would they have done over at the Famous?
So at the Famous, the founder for the Famous is Ed Dismuke, and he was a pharmacist. And so he made lots of different products out of the water, and that's what he was really well known for. And so he had like if you see the big bottle, it's the Pronto Lax, or he made also like a crystal in a residium. And since he was a pharmacist, he knew how to do those really well. Yeah. And so they had the pavilion there was more of he had like a fortune teller and a gaming parlor. So they would play games there as well. So where you have like the seating outside, at one time was screened in. Okay. And so they had like a screened-in area for people to come in, and they would buy a water card. And so you would buy a water card, which is good for a week. And during that week, you're able to come in and get like a glass or 2 of water a day.
Well, and you mentioned 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we've got here 1 and 3. But what is that? What is the difference between a 1, 2, 3, and 4?
So the higher the number, the higher the mineral content. Okay. And so to be a mineral water, you can't add anything to it. So all your minerals have to be naturally occurring. And so you have, and you get that from different depths of the earth. And so each well has its own depth, and from that depth of the earth, you get different level and combinations of minerals. Okay. And that's what makes a mineral water different from all other bottled waters, is it has to be source specific, because you can't add anything to it. Everything has to be naturally occurring.
And you can actually get the water at both pavilions, the Crazy Water Pavilion and the Famous.
Correct.
All right, and we've talked about what you get here, coffee and teas. There's also a fun little like souvenir shop over here. And at the Famous, you do the waters, where you can get lots of different water souvenirs and t-shirts.
So at the pavilion, people bring in their own 5-gallon jugs, and so we refill anything a gallon and larger. So you bring in your own jugs for refill. A lot of people come in for sampling. We run the tours. We do a walking tour that is every day at 11, and then on weekends, on Saturdays, 10 and 3. Okay. And then, but we do sodas with the water over there. And we also do like sprouted nuts, and then we have body products that we make with the water. We have a company that makes all the bases without the water. And they're very botanical, very organic based, no chemicals in them. And we use all those at the bathhouse, and we sell those at the water company too. So basically, at the pavilion, we specialize in anything made with the water. Okay. And then all of our souvenirs, we try to do it to where it's as local as we possibly can. Right. Handmade when can, and so most everything is made in Texas and made by hand.
Okay, awesome. And I know too, over at the Famous Water, the annual Crazy Water Festival is really kind of anchored there.
That's correct.
All around that area there. And so tell us, since we're talking about it, a little bit about the Crazy Water Festival.
So the Crazy Art Festival is always the second Saturday in October, and it is a community-wide festival. And so we kind of, we organize it, so we host it, and then we get different nonprofits that host all the different profit centers of it. So they use it as their own fundraiser for their organization.
So like the Crazy 5K Run, the Crazy Car Show, all of those are run by different nonprofits.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. And so that's so then they bring their own team to execute that portion of it, and they keep the proceeds, and then they donate back 10% of their profits.
Yeah.
And that's what the festival runs on every year.
Okay, awesome. All right, so any big special plans for this year's festival?
We will have William Clark Green. He's our headliner to come play at the festival this year, and last year we had record crowds, and all the events did kind of record sales, and so we'll kind of continue on from that and just keep building it, making it bigger and better.
All right, well, Carol, thanks for telling us all the things. I'm always curious about the science of it. I keep trying to tell people, I've heard you tell it once before, and I keep trying to repeat it. So now I'm gonna have my own version of it that I can share with people. But thank you for sharing all the things with us, all the craziness.
Thank you for inviting me to be on today, and we appreciate it. We love welcoming all the visitors when they come to Mineral Wells, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.